So I'm gonna make a lazy video um, with no real content, no excuse for existing other than to complain. There have been rumors about a Dead Space reboot for like a couple months, maybe a few weeks, and apparently it's true. I'm just gonna put the teaser trailer up, and we'll see. I haven't actually watched it yet, but I'll get into it once this trailer's over. Okay, so I mean it's just a teaser. That said, being a teaser, I really hope that necromorph reveal is not in the game anywhere. That's such cheesy, overdone cliche garbage. In horror games, horror movies, having this specific scene to reveal the monster, and that, I mean, it's been around literally forever. Since like I'm not a big fan of really old horror movies like Frankenstein and stuff like that. But I guarantee you that they did that all the time in old horror movies, and like in games specifically, for sure, Resident Evil One kind of popularized that I know of. As soon as you went into that hallway after the dining room and you turn left, you walk into that zombie, and there's a scene, and like he slowly turns his head and gets up and starts lumbering towards you, and they made a big deal out of it. It was like a minute long scene. So I really hope that isn't in the game. Um, the appeal of Dead Space was that you weren't there when the whole thing happened, so you don't have these ridiculous horror reveals for the most part. I mean, like some of them you do, but they're subtle and fast. Like the first time you see, I think one of what are they called, the lurkers. The first time you see one of the lurkers, like you see them kill someone, I think behind a glass window, and then that's it. Like it's over in like 20 seconds. Um, I think probably the longest monster reveal in the game is for the what do you call it? The brutes, like when you're on the bridge in that one part, and it's busting through the wall. And they had already introduced it before that, like a minute before that, while you were walking through the hallway, because it was like banging on the wall, and like I think it slashed its claws through the wall at one point. And then even with the thing, that big tentacle that like drags you through that one hallway, they had kind of introduced it, but the introduction was the sequence. They didn't bullshit around. It was just like, oh shit, you're grabbed by a tentacle and you're gonna die if you don't shoot it in time. That was it. There was no cliche horror reveal. So I really hope that's not in the game, and I really don't think it will be. Because it's just a teaser trailer. They just threw some shit together in engine to show that it exists. Um, as far as the engine itself goes, like it didn't really look any different than the actual game. It looked kind of like higher resolution and actually a bit more. It looked higher resolution, but at the same time, it looked lower fidelity. Like they just upscaled the textures because the graphics were good in the game, but they were definitely splotchy. So if you upscale splotchy textures, they're still going to look splotchy, and it's just going to be more noticeable. That said, as far as that teaser trailer, I don't care for the version of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star that they put in. It was very subtle. You could barely hear it, and it just, I don't know, it wasn't creepy. Like it didn't really fit the theme. Oh, and then also the boot up sounds for the rig. I'm not a fan of that. Like I hope that isn't in the game, to be honest. All that said, I'm entirely opposed to this existing in the first place. I don't want this to be a thing. I've asked for this to be a thing for years, but given what we know now, that EA Motive, the developers of Star Wars Squadrons, are the ones making this. Even if it was like Respawn Entertainment, it doesn't matter. I have no interest in this. I do not want EA touching any of their old games whatsoever, just at all. Mass Effect Legendary Edition was barely acceptable, and really the only reason it is acceptable is because they went to the effort to actually include a photo mode in all three games. Not that it was really that much effort, because modders had done that years ago, but EA went through and they actually made like a decent camera tool. And for the most part, like the texture work and all that crap in Legendary Edition is actually pretty decent. I didn't pay a full price for the game. Even if I did, I wouldn't be disappointed. Plus, there's mods that restore stuff that was removed anyway. So that's like the one exception to EA screwing with their old games that I've been okay with so far. But I am absolutely like not interested in this, and obviously I'm getting downvoted already because you're not allowed to have nuanced, legitimate opinions that have reasons behind them. You're just supposed to blindly fucking like and consume and buy and just be a fucking piece of shit. That's how the gaming community goes at this point. Downvote my video, I don't care. That's how things are going. You're not allowed to have an opinion. You're supposed to like or dislike, and then you're supposed to downvote everyone that feels differently. So let's take a look at the article. Blah, blah, blah. Here's a summary of the new remake from EA's YouTube channel. Sci-fi horror, survival horror classic Dead Space returns, completely rebuilt from the ground up by Motive Studios to offer a deeper and more immersive experience. I already don't like the sound of that. Yeah. Nope. Count me out. Harnessing the power of the Frostbite game engine. So, instant fail. It's going to be shit. It's going to be absolute fucking trash. We'll pause the article. If you're not familiar with Frostbite, it is a terrible fucking engine. It may look pretty, but it is barely functional as a game engine. If you need examples, go play Mass Effect Andromeda. Take a look at the animations, the graphics. Take a look at how janky it feels. Frostbite is an engine that DICE developed for the Battlefield games. It has always been a Battlefield engine. It was always meant for vehicular combat. The original game, with the original version of Frostbite, you were almost never on foot using a gun to shoot people. And for those that played it, you can tell that the engine was extremely shitty at that kind of gameplay, because there was like barely any recoil. The guns didn't really work like you would expect them to work. It took them over a year after release to get the infantry combat to actually feel like it. It was a first-person shooter and not like Fortnite or Minecraft or something where physics and like aim and shit like that don't matter. Now it handled vehicular combat a lot better because that's what it was really meant for. Um, it was really a vehicle game, and it was like if you lucked out and got stuck on foot, then you know, sorry to you. Hopefully, you can stay alive long enough to steal a vehicle or find one, but you're not going to have fun until you're in a vehicle. The engine has gotten better, but it's also gotten exponentially worse as the Battlefield games have gone on. Um, Now they have all these like hard baked, shitty terrain pieces, like on that map on Battlefield One. Not Suez, but the other desert map, the one that has the giant stone arch. You literally can't go on top of those rocks. Like 40% of those rocks, I'd say probably more like 70% of those rocks, you physically can't get on top of the rock the way they designed it. Like it's not an object that exists in the world. It's just there for decoration. And Battlefront 1 for sure had that issue because it's the same engine. I don't know about Battlefront 2. It probably does also. So I mean, the Frostbite engine is pretty, but it is not good for gameplay. It really isn't. If you've played Dragon Age 3, in Dragon Age 3 it doesn't even look good. It kind of looks like shit, and it is in the Frostbite engine. Or like Battlefield 5. They're just fucking janky. Things don't work the way they really should. So, I mean, that's an instant no sale for me. I'm not buying anything that's made in the Frostbite engine. And Mass Effect Andromeda takes the cake. That game was fucking garbage. It is still garbage. All these people want to try to defend it. They're like, oh, yeah, well, it's been years. And, it's been 4 years and they've fixed the... No, they haven't. They may have fixed the graphical problems and the shitty animations, but even if they did, the game sucks. It's just a bad game. The gameplay is not fun. So anyway, I'll read the rest of the article, I guess. Dead Space will be available on PlayStation 5, Xbox, and PC, of course. So, I didn't read that part out loud. So the game's being remade from scratch in Frostbite. We're not porting the textures. They're not up-resing the textures or adding more polygons, blah, blah, blah. They're rebuilding all these elements, redoing all the animations. The one thing I will say is that given 13 extra years after the game was originally made, it may be easier to make the game this time. If you don't know anything about Dead Space, or let's not say anything, but if you don't know like in-depth details that a normal person wouldn't know, like if you haven't watched developer interviews, that game, I usually refer to it as a horror funhouse or a house of mirrors. It is very much bullshit together. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, like, they had to do a lot of tricks to make that game actually work. There's one interview in particular with Glenn Schofield where he talks about the sequence that almost broke the game. And that's the sequence when you come back into that hallway and that giant tentacle comes out of the hole in the wall, and you're hanging upside down, and you have to shoot the orange things to blow it up, because if you don't do it in time, it kills you. I forget how it kills you, but I think it like drags you into the hole in the wall, and you just get chopped up. But there's a whole interview where he talks about, and there's articles about it as well, where they talk about how that sequence was like the hardest thing to do in the game because of the animation, just the way it like disoriented the player and required like all these special. I don't know. It doesn't seem that complicated from a our perspective, but if they say it's complicated, and it was also 13 years ago, so I believe them. I guess. I mean, this was like when Crisis was new, when they were working on this game. But it's not just that. There's stuff like you'll go down a hallway and you'll see a necromorph or something, and then it'll just like disappear. Or there's like specific sounds that'll happen at the right time. But if you pay attention, those sounds are bullshit. Like you'll hear a necromorph scurrying right in front of you or something, but then you'll realize it doesn't actually exist. It's not in the game. Or like there's one particular example. It's near the beginning after you walk through that big empty space with the first door that's screwed up, the one that like keeps on opening and closing, and you have to use stasis for the first time. There's a hallway after that where as soon as you go in the hallway, like the lights are flickering, and the camera angle shows the air ducts above you, or like the whatever the pipe, the whatever the term is, like the where the pipes run and there's like metal shit, holding it in place. So the camera angle is looking down at you from that area, and you see a necromorph like scurry up into a vent or something. Like that necromorph never existed. It was never actually in the game. It was just, they just put it there for that sequence and that was it. So there's a lot of like hand designed bullshit in Dead Space that was put there at a specific time in order to make the game, feel scarier than it actually was. And I mean, it was successful. The first time you play through, it works, but then once you play through, the second and third and fourth times, you're like, oh yeah, like I can just run through this area and Hulk everything, because there aren't actually any enemies that are going to attack me. So I'm not really sure how that's going to work out in Frostbite. It's not like you couldn't do that's exact same stuff in Frostbite, but it's not going to work the same. So however they do design the same sequences, they're just not going to be the same. We'll see. I don't know. Hopefully it comes to like Game Pass or something, because I'm absolutely not paying for this shit. All anyone asked for was a remaster. We didn't want a remake. And furthermore, there better not be a remake of the other games. However, if this is a reboot / remake, if they do take the story in a different direction by the time they get to 3, that would be perfectly fine with me. It's not that the story in 3 was bad. It's that it ended on a total bullshit cliffhanger. And then the DLC made it even worse because you aren't even sure like if the DLC was real and it actually happened, or what's actually going on. So on the one hand, I kind of hope they do succeed with this so that they can give us a better ending. But on the other hand, fuck that. I mean, this is hands down one of my favorite games. I do not take kindly to this game being fucked with, the same way that I was not excited about the Resident Evil 2 remake, and to this date I'm still not happy with the Resident Evil 2 remake. I would have preferred they didn't touch it. And this is the thing, people don't, I say people, I don't really know who these people are. I don't know if I should treat them as people, because they seem to just be children. Like, here's an example. This is my comment. 100% no thank you. Fuck this. 2 downvotes. Like, fuck you, fuck all of you. Why the fuck would you downvote this? It's fucking stupid. Like, these fucking people are stupid. I can't stand these people. But my point was, these remakes, these developers just get a free fucking pass. Everyone sucks their dick because they remade a game that people liked. And, the reality is that it's just lazy, uncreative bullshit. They're rehashing old products because they know that they don't have any new ideas. And these people just fucking eat it up. Oh, yes, a Dead Space remake. That's awesome. Resident Evil 2 remake. Oh, and people will be like, oh, it's so much better than the original game. No, it isn't. It really, truly isn't. And even more so for Resident Evil 3. It is absolutely worse than the real Resident Evil 3. I don't have a review of video for RE2 remake, but maybe I'll make one. I think I probably talked about it, but they did not do a good job. Graphically, they did a good job, and as far as the enemies, like with the RNG damage, that was a pretty good way to balance out being able to actually headshot. But pretty much like nothing else in that game was good. So, sorry, I got a little bit off track. So I am not a fan of these games being remade. It doesn't matter if it's Dead Space. These fucking people that they go online and they ask for Chrono Trigger to be remade, or Resident Evil 4. Basically, any of these games, there is no legitimate reason to be remaking these games when they were perfect the first time around, or they were amazing the first time around. Like, Resident Evil 4 is one of the best fucking games ever made. It absolutely does not merit a remake for any reason. There is not one valid reason that you can give me that Resident Evil 4 should be remade. Remastered? Yeah. Like a proper remaster, not the fucking crap that Capcom put out 10 years ago, 7 years ago. Yes. An actual remake? No. There is absolutely no reason. There's not one valid reason that Resident Evil 4 should be remade. The graphics are still perfectly fine. And if you really want updated graphics, then play the game on PC and download the Ultimate RE4 mod. Don't play that crappy fucking Ultimate HD version that came out on 360 and PS3, because that already didn't look much better than the original game. And that was 9 years after the original game came out on GameCube. And also, I say that there's no legitimate reason to remake RE4, because the only reason that the Ultimate HD Remaster existed in the first place is because the previous ports of Resident Evil 4 were ports of the PlayStation 2 version. And if you know anything about Resident Evil 4, the PlayStation 2 version is the inferior version by a country mile. They cut out tons of weather effects, volumetric effects from the smoke. It had lower resolution textures, just all kinds of visual fidelity type stuff was cut out for the PS2 version because the GameCube was a stronger machine. And then they based every port after that on the PS2 version. And you should see the original PC port. It's the absolute worst, and it's based on the PS2 version. It looks like utter dog shit. It controls like utter dog shit. I'm pretty sure it's the reason that the Ultimate HD version exists in the first place. But I'm totally digressing into another video. There just really isn't a legitimate reason to remake most of these games. But Dead Space specifically is the game that no one really needs a remake for. All we wanted was better graphics. You don't have to remake a game entirely to have better graphics, especially in a shitty engine like Frostbite. But we'll see what happens.